So welcome to this space where we try to reflect on how understanding our energies, our energetic blueprint through the astrological chart may give us some tips on how to define and how to design our life in a more conscious way, which might help us to live a healthier and happier life. And we are now in the month of the new moon in Gemini, which started about 2 weeks ago. And so we are discussing all this month and we're reflecting all this month on the energy of Gemini. And also we have some other interesting events that have been occurring this week, astronomically and astrologically. And we just went by the solstice. For us in the southern hemisphere, it's the winter solstice, and for those of you in the northern hemisphere, it's the summer solstice. It's the time where the sun enters the sign of Cancer, and it defines the beginning of the winter season for us and the summer season for you. And this has been a date that has been observed and honored throughout the ages. And Cancer is the sign we will be seeing next month. It's a sign that talks about our emotions and our human contact. So we are also in this Gemini season. We are also influenced by the starting of this new period in the Cancer sign, and with this full moon in Capricorn. So these are all astronomic events that have some meaning to us and that can make us reflect about our lives. Today I chose to discuss, to talk, to reflect upon one aspect of Gemini that I've been reflecting upon this week. And as you may know, when we study astrology, we refer to many of the myths behind the astrological meanings. So actually astrology, much of the meanings that we give to each sign of astrology, they have derived from the synthesis of some of the myths behind that constellation. So for Gemini, one of the main myths we refer to is the myths of Castor and Pollux, which were twin brothers. And this is one of the stories that it's mostly told about Gemini. That's why Gemini, from that story, we start talking about Gemini as a sign that talks about our pairs, our brothers, sisters, but also our neighbors, those who are on the same level, we would say. But also the internal Gemini, the internal twin within us. So that part of us that we may be hiding or not expressing, and which is part of us as well. And if you Google and you put Castor and Pollux, you will see in the images, you will see these two brothers who are many times represented with their horses. So each of them is represented with their horse. And a lot of times when they're represented with a horse, they're not riding the horse, but they are holding the reins of the horse or just standing beside the horse. And this is an important image because Gemini is about our thoughts and our thought processes and our mental abilities. So sometimes we stay thinking that Gemini has to do with communication and our mental processes, And we think that being too much in our mind, too much on our thoughts, it's not good. But actually what Gemini brings us is a capacity to detach and observe our animal part, which is the horse, and be able to observe our emotions, observe the way our impulses, our urges, our desires, the intuition, those emotions and feelings, they come from our animal part. And we have the capacity as human beings to reflect on ourselves. This is quite unique. No other animals can do this, be aware of their own consciousness, to self-reflect upon themselves. So this is what Gemini and this myth of Castor and Pollux brings, this information. We are able to reflect on ourselves and to reflect on our animal part. Our mind is able to develop that observer and observe that animal part of us. And it's very interesting because the opposite and complementary sign to Gemini is precisely Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is represented by a horseman riding his horse. So someone who is fused with his animal part, with his instincts, with its desires, with its passions, and lets these instincts and these gut feelings take the reins and be able to drive us forward. So as someone even though someone who has developed the capacity to observe the emotions, does not get detached from it, but actually rides the horse and listens to the body, listens to its passions, listens to its needs, and is able to go forward, because Sagittarius is one of the signs that directs us forward, and is able to direct forward from the gut feeling, from the intuition, integrating the intuition, the gut feeling, the passions, the desires. And this is very important in health, because nowadays we live so much, and this is mostly after the Industrial Revolution and since the 18th century, that we've been thinking that we're more like machines and acting like machines, and forgetting our animal, our more instinctual part. So most of us, we have designed lives that come from planning, from a mind that is detached from the body, not really listening to what my body needs, to what my body is, where my body is guiding me, where my body is telling me, no, this is not a good environment. I feel bad vibes. I have the gut feeling this is not for me. And we don't listen, and we just go there. And how many times people take jobs that it's not where their body is comfortable, and they spend hours throughout the days, day after day, embedding their bodies in you can imagine like when you dive in a pool, like just diving their bodies in an ambiance, in an environment that is not healthy for them. So, and eventually, that body starts not working very properly, their immune system, and they get sick. So it's very important to integrate in health. It's a healthy person is someone who can integrate their desires, their animal part, their mind, and their actions. So what does that person do with the passions and their thinking, and how does he or she integrate them and then move forward, or take an action? So health has a lot to do with integration and balance, and integrating our feelings, our thoughts with our actions. And Gemini tells us about their capacity to reflect upon our emotions, our sensations, trying to understand what the body is telling me, what is that gut feeling, and listening to that gut feeling. But then we complement with Sagittarius, which is riding on the horse and saying, okay, this gut feeling is I shouldn't immerse myself 8 hours a day in this ambiance, in this environment which doesn't seem healthy for me. So be aware of what the body is telling me, and use our bodies as sensors, as antenna to guide us in this material world, in this terrestrial world, to guide us where is it that we feel more comfortable, where is it that it's a good environment for me, and let the body guide us instead of guiding ourselves from our mind. And this is quite a change of how most of us we've been living, through guiding our lives through our mental constructions, our thoughts, our beliefs, the beliefs of others, of what is good and what is to have a respectable life or a successful life is. And these are all mental constructs that we have integrated from our culture, from our family, from society, and a lot of times they don't go hand in hand with our animal part. So being able to be conscious of what our body is telling at each moment, being in that presence, in that power of the now, being in the now, is really sensing and feeling and being aware of these very subtle feelings and sensations. That is the body talk, is the way the body talks to us to guide us towards a healthy and joyful and rejoicing and happy life. So Gemini gives us this capacity to reflect upon who we are, but also tells us that now is time to ride on the horse and integrate what we feel, what we think, and how we act. So let me show you a little exercise that we might do when we feel we're too much in our head, we're too much, even sometimes some practices, some meditations that guide us out of our bodies towards imagination and towards imagery, which are very useful for some developing some tools, but also sometimes may make us very spacey. And we need in this life, we need to be very well integrated in our bodies. We need to be embodied in order to live this terrestrial life. We need to be embodied and grounded in contact with the earth, and in order to maintain this flow of energy entering and leaving us, and maintain that health, that vital energy, that energy of life that is keeping us alive. So in order to do that, if we're too much in our head or we get too spacey, we might use some techniques that are very well known to those disciplines like acupuncture, or which know of the electric circuit in our bodies and how to manage the energy in our bodies to make it flow in a healthy way. So one example is simply when we feel that we're too much in our head, and we might bring our hand, the palm of our hand, to our front, and maybe accompanied with the other hand at the back, and we may just rest for a little while, just letting our mind calm down and start to feel. Sometimes it takes a couple of minutes, sometimes it takes longer, but to start to feel how when we calm our minds, we are able to start feeling the energy flowing in the rest of our bodies. And if we feel the energy and we feel the sensations in our bodies, then we're more aware of what our animal part is telling us. We're able to listen to the body language, and we develop this capacity to be in the present moment, guided by our intuition and by the intelligence of our body. So calming the mind allows us to integrate mind, body and spirit, and to live guided by our whole self-intelligence. So if you're one of the people that live too much in your head, or that work too much on an intellectual basis, and after a few hours of writing emails or writing reports or thinking about something, analyzing, then it might be good for you to take some rest and try to ground, to calm your mind. So this is what I wanted to share with you about Gemini and this incredible capability that we have to detach and observe ourselves and self-reflect upon ourselves and become conscious of who we are. But at the same time, Gemini complements with Sagittarius, which shows us a way to ride, to get on the horse and really fuse with our animal part and let our body guide us where we go. So I hope this is a useful reflection for you. And what we are intending in this podcast is to learn tools to live a more conscious life, to live a life that has more to do with who you are, and to be able to really tune your instrument, your body as your instrument, like a musical instrument that you want to tune very, very, very finely so you can give your best melody. So I wish you a good week, and let's see how you can reflect on this and put some of this in practice. If you like this podcast, I ask you, I thank you for giving some likes or making some comments or sharing with your friends or family who may be interested in it. And also it's useful for me to hear from you whether this type of information is helping you in your life, and whether there are some topics that you may want to listen to that I talk about. So thank you again, and have a nice week.